So, welcome again friends. My name is Vinayak Kanvinde, and this module we are going to see how for any individual who wishes to do transactions and make a purchase of a good or avail of a service, how does he close the transaction by making a payment, looking at the price, and then how the entire loop closes, right. So, this is very important module. The way we do transactions today in terms of for any purchase of a good or availing of a service has undergone a sea transformation, right. So, in the just 5, 10, 15 years ago, we did transactions solely based on currency, right. We used a lot of money, and or there was transactions used to be deferred in terms of, and the payment cycle used to be longer, because the element of sending either the check to the vendor for the seller or the seller of the good or a service, or sort of the cash payments needed to be made, right, and those could not have been made when the transaction was live. So, there were challenges of closing the entire payment cycle, and obviously we have moved from that era to an instant where the trade transactions have multiplied thousands of times, lakhs of times, because the payment cycles have crashed as a result of quick payment delivery mechanisms, right. So, we are going to look at the entire how the purchase or a transaction is being completed, how the price and payments cycle is completed, and what are the sort of various methods on which the entire transactions are completed today. So, let us look at the price payment cycle per se. Okay. What used to happen earlier versus what is happening in the current context, right. So, to understand this, we will have to understand that for any payment or any good or service that you are trying to purchase or avail, right, there are three elements: the presence of the customer or a buyer. For example, if you are the customer and you want to avail a product or avail a service, then the first instance is that you would in the what's the earlier method of sort of for a purchase of a good or a service, you would go to the market and you would select the good, and then you would make the payment over the counter, and then you would take the good with you, bring the good, whether it's a garment or if it's a toy or whatever, you get that with you. Or if the good is really a white good, for example, a refrigerator or a washing machine or a large flat screen TV, you actually make the payment, the transaction is complete, and then the good is shipped via an alternate method through a delivery mechanism to your place, and that's where the sort of the entire transaction completes. But the first instance is that your desire to actually go to the market and start shopping. So, that's the first basic element of the purchase cycle, right. Then when you go to the market, obviously whether it's a flat screen TV or the refrigerator or the washing machine or the pair of jeans that you really liked, right, you would basically always want to know what the price per unit is. So, for example, if the pair of jeans that you are interested to buy, right, if the unit price of the jeans is 2000 rupees, right, or if there is an offer which says buy 2 get 1 free, then the decision of your buying that particular garment is based on how the unit price, and that has a psychological bearing. Buying a jeans at 2K and getting buy 2 and get 1 free has a completely, you would be tempted to actually go in for the buy 2 get 1, because what happens is that the price per unit actually is falling down, right. So, that is certainly one of the bigger factors when you decide whether, one is the desire. The first is the desire that you would want to avail, you want to buy a particular item, a good, or want to avail a service, right. The second is what you would sort of really be worried about is what is there a value for money in this item that I'm buying. If the price per unit in a single quantity is, let's say, 2000 as we mentioned, but obviously there is a offer going on and there's a buy two get one free, then the price per unit actually falls, right? It's 4000 rupees on total that you would buy for two items divided by 3, right? So it is just about 1500 rupees is what you would pay for the collectively 3 items. That's how you would kind of think about it, right? So so this definitely is one of the other elements that you would. Then you would make up your mind and you would say, okay, I'm done, right? I've already decided that I want to buy this pair of jeans. And then finally you would say, okay, now if you're in a supermarket, or if you're in a large format store or a mall, for example, you will have your basket, you'll put the garment or the good that you have purchased, you put it in the bucket, move the entire trolley or the basket towards the payment till, right? The counters that you have typically in the store. In a smaller store, you have a single counter. In a mall or a shopping center, you'll have basically a multiple money tills or the counters that we normally call that. You would go there, and then before you exit the store, the final transaction that you would do on that is make the payment, right, for the good or the service that you have availed, right? So this is a very critical element of closure of the entire price payment cycle. So payment finally is actually a closure of the entire transaction that you thought, the entire activity that you are doing in terms of, right from the desire that came to your mind that I think today I'm going to shop for a particular book, a pair of jeans, a white good, whatever you have in mind, right? The desire, you become the customer, you go to the market, you find out whether whatever that you are interested into, right, what is the price per unit of that. If you think that it is value for money, then you would obviously avail that. You would take sort of, if you are in a store, you take a physical possession. And then finally, this is a critical element, right? So today we are going to spend a lot of time on the payment part, right? Obviously, it's not so much of the price part, it is not so much of the good part that we are trying to see. This particular module is more about what are different types of payment and how the entire experience of making payments, when we used to complete this entire price payment cycle 5, 10, 15 years ago, towards what are the new age payments that are happening now, and that actually has a very high bearing on the entire cycle of activity in terms of whether you took maybe 1 hour to do the entire transaction, a few days to do the entire transaction, or whether you're completing the entire cycle within a few minutes, right? So that's the difference between what this price payment cycle completing or taking a lot of time earlier versus completing the entire price payment cycle in a few minutes is what the entire, and most of the emphasis, as I said, is on the payment side. So we'll actually in a few slides later, we're going to see how dynamic the payments mechanism has evolved from what we used to do earlier, and now what are the new age payment cycles, that payment opportunities or payment types that are available, right? So pictorially, again, price payment cycle actually talks about purchases of this goods and or a service, right? It starts with basically the uh, in terms of a service, payment for a service, it starts with a school, okay, where you need the admission, for example, right? And then you make an inquiry, you think that, yeah, of course, I would want to get admitted to a particular, or you are admit a child towards a particular school. You select the school, make an inquiry, right? And then go to the counter and then say, okay, I would want to get my son or daughter admitted to a particular, and then close this transaction by making the payment at the designated counter. Now these payments can be through check, credit card, and we'll see a lot of, or the NEFT, we'll see a lot of how the payment cycles have been closed. right, in a few more slides. So now we have moved on to the different modes of payment, right. So in the earlier slide we looked at that once you make the payment, obviously the entire transaction is complete from that perspective, and then the entire you have finished the entire transaction of either buying a good or availing a service, and then enjoying the basically the good that you have bought, or enjoying the service that you have bought. But what are the modes of payment? So when you were at the counter, right? When you were at the counter, you could have, as we all do, we just flip our wallets, pay either cash, or we have several cards, debit, credit, or whatever. That's typically that what you do, right? That's how you close the payment cycle. But there are several new age payments that have come, right, over the past few years, and and we'll talk about that one by one. So the basic transaction cycle we talked about, right, has the customer, his desire for good and service, the presence of customer, his desire and good or service, that's what we saw, right, to avail a service that he would want to saw, the price per unit, that's exactly we saw, and finally the payments. So we saw this, the entire stuff in the earlier slide. We'll now look at how. So the first easiest, which has been, we've been doing it for so long that you carry cash in the wallet and complete the transaction on the counter. Now what are the pros of or the cons of this type of payment that you do? The pros are obvious, right? It's almost like a quick way to finish the payment cycle, right? You just get the deal over by just handing over cash, right? So you go to the supermarket or you go to the sort of vegetable market. You want to buy smaller goods, daily necessities that you want to buy. The easiest form of to close the transaction is that you just put hand in your pocket or flip the wallet and you pay the cash and it's done. So the pro or the advantage of carrying cash is that it's easily acceptable. We saw that in the earlier modules where we talked about legal tender, we talked about money, we talked about notes and coins and denominations. So you have at your disposal a very easy way of completing the trade, and it's the almost amongst the most widely accepted mode of payment is cash. And I mean, even in 2024 as we are, cash is still the almost widely accepted, though maybe things will change as we go ahead, but cash is still accepted and cash is still widely available in circulation for you to complete the payment. So the biggest advantage of cash is the wide availability and the wide acceptability of the cash. What are the certain disadvantages of using cash, right? For smaller payments that you typically go to the market or the mall or a shopping center, cash would not be a problem at all. What happens if you were to shop for slightly expensive items like the white goods that we talked about in the earlier slide? We talked about the refrigerator and the washing machines. Maybe in those situations also people even in today's times do carry cash, the 10 and the 20,000 and 30,000. It's not rare to see people flipping out a couple of bundles of cash and paying it on the counter, and but where it really gets tricky in today's world is where the price per units of the goods and services, or price per units typically of the white goods, are upwards of 50,000, 1 lakh, even for example, certain smartphones and tablets do cost above 1 lakh of rupees per unit. In that situation, cash becomes almost very bulky to carry and very hard to close the transaction by, because you will need to carry bundles and bundles of cash and we have the highest denomination typically now at 500 widely in circulation. So you'll have to still carry a couple of bundles if the price point of the particular tablet or the smartphone that you want to purchase is over a lakh of rupees. You'll have to still carry a couple of bundles of 500, and that's, it will be pretty bulky for any person. Plus it will not, you will have a security threat on you if people find out that you are carrying a lot of cash, right? Cash can be easily prone to theft, can be stolen from your purse or your wallet or whatever, right? So these are the disadvantage of carrying cash and closing transaction in terms of payments. In today's time, it becomes maybe appropriate for smaller transactions, and it becomes appropriate for when you are actually just going to the to the vegetable market or towards your grocery shopping. For smaller transaction ticket sizes, maybe that makes sense. Money order. Now, again, this payment is was in a big sort of prevalent in maybe 10 years ago, in terms of making payment for goods when you had interstate. So there were institutes, or there were publishers which used to ship books from their locations, maybe all across India. So publisher or a an organization, sending you goods or a service, goods basically from a location like a Delhi or a Kolkata to Mumbai or a Chennai or a Bangalore, for example. The payment, in the absence of technology at that point in time, the payments used to be settled by a money order. So the good used to be delivered, or the invoice used to be delivered via post, and then you made a money order before the vendor could ship the good or the book or whatever that you have ordered for. And the money order was the payment mechanism which was certainly prevalent at least 10 or 15 years ago. In today's world, hardly anybody does money order. Money order was also widely used for peer-to-peer, and we'll see that how this concept has changed in the current scenario. What do we mean by peer-to-peer? Sending money between one person to the other. So peer-to-peer. Money order was the most preferred payment method or mechanism to used in the earlier times, where a person wanting to deliver money to a person in another location used to use a money order as a payment mechanism, including for merchandise also. For, as we explained earlier, I mean, in terms of buying a book or let's say a certain small good that is being shipped from other state, then money order was definitely prevalent. The other, even currently, this is in use, though not in a large, sort of the smaller undertakings do resort to check as a mode of payment for any good or sort of service availed, including P2P. So though the usage of checks is now falling with time, check as a means to payment for any of the good or service that you have availed is still prevalent, and this could be used in an event even when you are using interstate good or a service that you are availing, to send checks via via mail across, or courier across to the person who have sent you the good or service through the invoice, or peer to peer, or it could be in the same location as well. For example, if you avail a service from a gym and you want to make a payment, even today's time, if you sort of were to ask the provider of that, let's say a physical fitness or a center or a gym, that where would he accept a check to his account, the answer most probably will be yes. So maybe from a business or a service perspective, in the same location, the neighborhood that you would want to, the check is still widely accepted mode of payment, and in terms of closing a transaction for the services that we talked about, in terms of the mode of payment for the entire transaction cycle, So check is definitely a widely used method of payment for not only for the good or the service that you are using, but also for peer to peer, which means if any friend or a relative is asking for money for whatever reasons and you want to sort of pay him, um, then he will be okay if you say, sort of, if I'm going to drop a check to your account, or I'm going to issue you a check, and then probably you can, encash it and get the cash that you require, that you're asking me, right? So for peer to peer as well as settling of these, sort of goods or a service that you have built, check continues to be a fairly okay accepted method of payment, right? This NACH is basically a mandate, okay, and we'll see more of this in the next slides. This is a mandate. It's called NACH, or the National Automated Clearing House. That's the short form for the NACH. This is an automatic method of settling payments, right? Periodic payments typically. So we'll see a lot of this in fairly detail in the following slides, but at this moment it is sufficient to say that if so, where does NACH sort of applicable, right? Can you set up an NACH payment for let us say a white good purchase that you did on a particular day or time? Probably not. NACH would be used for periodic payment. So in the example that we just saw, in terms of the gym or the fitness center example that I gave, let us say you have a monthly, sort of, you're settling these uh, invoices to the fitness center on a monthly basis as opposed to a half yearly or a annual plan. In that case, you can set up a NACH mandate, this mandate, which means you authorize the fitness center by registering this NACH mandate. How does one register it? What are the mechanisms? We'll see that later. At this moment, I'm just it's sufficient to on a summary side know that the mandate is registered for that particular vendor for periodic payments. Therefore, this fitness center that we are talking about, if it's a monthly invoice that he's raising, instead of paying every month to him, you can provide a mandate for a particular fixed payment for that vendor or the fitness center, and then on a particular date, whatever fees or whatever charges that he is charging you will get automatically debited from your bank account. So you have authorized as a customer by signing up a mandate, the NACH mandate. Now this is very popular, and we'll see what kind of or what categories of payments does NACH work, and for what categories it does not work, and we'll see that. Prepaid cards. Now this is again another mode or a payment. It is similar to a debit or a credit card, but it differs slightly from the characteristics. Just like, if you guys remember, in the mobile services that the telecom companies give, there's this prepaid connections and the postpaid connections, right? What does a prepaid connection actually do in a telecom or a mobile service? You will have to pay a particular fixed sum of money to the telecom operator, right? Typically, whoever the telecom operator is. So you sort of recharge, they call it recharge. So you pay a particular fixed amount that he decides. It could be 100, 200, 299, whatever that random number that the service provider sets. So you pay that upfront, and after you pay, in terms of the prepaid connection, if you have one, after you pay, then the service is automatically started for you, and then you kind of use whatever you have paid for. If it's 100 rupees, 100 rupees worth of airtime is what the telecom services provider is given, right? Similarly, the cards, just like the debit or the credit cards, there are cards that are issued which are loaded with specified amount of monies that you would like the card to be loaded with. So it could be 1000 rupees, 500 rupees, 5000 rupees. Typically these prepaid cards do have a maximum load limit. So it could be set by the issuer. So if there's a bank, for example, let's say the State Bank of India, when it is issuing a prepaid card to any of its customers, it would say the card can be loaded with only 5000 rupees, for example, maximum. That is how much you can load this card with, right? So the prepaid card is a method where the card is issued, okay, to a particular designated person, typically a customer, or it may or may not be a customer. It could be any individual who gives the basic KYC to the issuer, and then the card is loaded with up to the maximum limit. You can load the card. This card can be used as a payment mechanism just like any other card, like the credit or the debit card. So the credit or the debit card is linked to your account, right? So you have the money in the account and you're going into the, and we'll see all of that, how does these two cards sort of differ, and in a very brief manner. But sufficient to say, for prepaid cards, if it's loaded with a particular sum of money, then you could close the payment loop by using the prepaid card's credentials and finish the payment just like any other card. You can avail the good or the service or close the payments only if the amount which is lying to the credit of the prepaid card, the good or the service that you're purchasing is slightly lower than that. So what does that mean? And it's very intuitive, right? In the sense that if the prepaid card is loaded with 1000 rupees, and which means the balance in the card is 1000 rupees, I can make a payment. I can make a payment for up to 1000 rupees. So if I went to a mall or a shopping center and I have a prepaid card with me, I have done I've shopped for a pair of shoes which is costing me 950 rupees. I can certainly give my prepaid card and it will be honored. The payment cycle or the payment or the transaction will be closed because you still have 1000 rupees loaded onto the card and you are shopping for 950 rupees for the pair. So you finish that entire transaction, you come out, the balance on the card after that will be only 50 rupees. So the next time you want to buy any good or a service, you have to remember that unless and until you load this prepaid card, it is not going to work, right? Because the balance on the card after your purchase is only 50 rupees. Okay. So you can again make a payment of up to rupees 50. So let us say you say, okay, now I want to charge my prepaid mobile by using this prepaid card. If there is a recharge available for 49 rupees, for example, you can still use this and complete the transaction for that particular, So the prepaid cards are wonderful for the reason that you can use them, they're safe, they can, just like your debit or a credit card, they can be basically used for any transactions and it can be loaded n number of times, right? Once the balance of the card depletes, you can go back and reload the cards, and as many times you can, up to the maximum limit that is permissible by the issuer, you can continue to reload the cards many times and use the cards for these transactions. So prepaid cards are one of the amongst the more prevalent methods or mechanisms and are sort of very widely used when you are out on travel or whether you want to give. So where are prepaid cards most useful for? Let us say if parents want to give their children a particular sum of money and they don't want to expose their bank accounts or whatever, then in that case, and if you're traveling, if you're out on travel, you want to load a particular card and you want to check your spendings. You don't want to spend more than what you think you can load onto the card. So you can limit your spending because it will not allow you to spend more than what you have on the card, right? As simple as that. So prepaid cards can be used as a payment method or mechanism. The all prevalent, so very, very widely used methods of payments are the debit or the credit card. So the plastic money that we talk about, the card that everybody has in our pocket or a wallet, whether it is a boy or a girl. So a credit or a debit card, we all know how they work, right? So the essential difference though, for all of you, I just wanted to make a step out and sort of give you a quick summary, the difference between a debit, when you say a debit or a credit card, it can be either a debit card or a credit card. It can be a combination of that. You can settle the payment either ways. However, there is a notable difference between these two cards, right? One is the debit, one is the credit. And what does that mean? A debit card more often than not is tied to the bank account, right? The issuer. So you have a bank account, okay? The bank or the issuer, whichever your bank is, they will issue you a card to access your account and make merchant or any online POS terminal related, and we'll see all of that, what are these different payment mechanisms, is that you go to the market just like the earlier instances where you were going out in the market with cash in your hand. You could go to the market with, like, just like the prepaid cards, you could go to the market with a debit card, right? A debit card basically has almost full access to your account, which means if your account has tomorrow 2 lakh rupees, the debit card will allow you complete access to your funds. Now here again there are, I'll not get into very higher minute level details in terms and conditions of the issuer cards and member agreements and so on and so forth, but it is sufficient to say that a debit card typically allows you, and most of the banks have limits, of course, because for your safety, where you can trade, do a transaction or do a trade for a limit that you have set on the card. So, which the issuer have set or which the customer has set. So, you can take this card. Unlike the prepaid card, if your account balance is 2 lakh rupees and you go to the market and you want to buy the fancy latest let's say laptop in the market, you can make that payment by just flashing the debit card, and the debit card will be able to buy because buy the, let's say, a 1,25,000 rupee laptop that you want to purchase, because you have the account, you have that much balance in the bank account. So it is directly tagged to your bank balance. If tomorrow you have the bank balance as at 1 lakh rupees and you want to make a purchase for 1 lakh 10,000 rupees or 1,25,000 rupees, that payment will be declined because obviously it is tied to your bank account. Now, so the main difference between a prepaid card and a debit card is that a prepaid card, you will have to load it, you will have to predefine how much you want to load it. There is a limits on how much you can load by the issuer bank. But on the other hand, the debit card gives you full access to the bank account. So how much ever money you have in the bank account, you will be able to spend the entire amount of money by one or many transactions, right, via the debit card. So up to the amount of money that you have in the account, you can do multiple transactions through debit cards and you can use the entire funds that are available, right? Now, what are credit cards there for? Credit cards are cards again issued by similar set of banks. So you might have a bank account with a XYZ bank. The same bank may also issue you a credit card. The only difference here is that in terms of a credit card, it gives you a pre-specified limit. It has no connection to your bank account. So for example, you have a bank account with an XYZ bank, okay? You have let's say 25,000 balance in the savings bank account. You will be able to spend, as we just saw, only 25,000 worth of goods or service. You will be able to settle that payment via the debit card, because obviously your bank balance is having only 25,000 rupees. The same bank, the XYZ bank for example, has issued you a credit card. Now they will issue a credit card to you based on your own personal profile, financial profile, your credit scores and your relationship with the bank, how long you have been banking, all of the history and the sort of your track record of payments and your credit score. There are mechanisms that the banking industry has formulated to judge you how much of the amount of money that they can allocate to you on the card. So for example, if I as a customer have a bank account with an XYZ bank and I've been their customer for 2, 3, 4 years, I've been also having bank with ABC bank and a PQZ bank, okay, several banks, and I've been their customers for 10 years and more. So I will have a credit history, I will have a lot of stuff. So my bank, the XYZ bank, if I were to apply for a credit card, they will issue me a card with a, let's say, a limit of 2 lakh rupees, just an example, right? So I have 25,000 in a savings bank account, and I can use that much for settling my payment. On the other hand, on the credit card, if the XYZ bank has issued me a card which has a limit, which they call as a credit limit of 2 lakh rupees, then I will have a potential to spend up to 25,000 in the bank account and up to 2 lakh rupees on my credit card in terms of settling the payment for a particular transaction that I wish to do on a good or a service. So the credit card gives me the ability to spend money on a particular availing or a good or a service, irrespective of the fact that I have money in the bank account or not. The credit card has a particular specified limit which is allocated to me, it is my personal limit. Now, my limit of 2 lakhs will be different from your limit, right? If you were to have your own credit card, you would have a limit of 50,000. Somebody would have a limit of 5 lakhs, somebody would have a limit of 10 lakhs, right? So, this limit is being set on a personal basis, right? It has got nothing to do with what your bank balance is and how wealthy you are. They will set basically a limit based on your personal parameters of credit worthiness, credit score, and your relationship with the banks XYZ, and issue you a limit. Now you can use credit cards for settling of any of the transactions of the good or service that you want to sort of avail based on the limit. Now therefore understand that credit, so the cards, whether it's debit or credit cards, have mechanisms where you can, and these two combined are amongst the widely used payment settlement mechanisms that are available in the market. The other two are electronic funds transfer, right, and the e-wallet. Now from top to bottom, as you are seeing, these are the older payment settlement mechanisms. The cash, the money order, the check, these are also slower, okay. These are also slower mechanisms. Cash obviously is a mechanism which is faster. However, the money order, the check, okay, are slower mechanisms to settle and have been in usage since a long time. The NACH mandate, the prepaid cards, and the debit and the credit cards are newer forms. In the last 15, 20, 25 years, they have been widely used as payment settlement mechanisms. The credit and the debit cards are continue to increase in terms of usage, in terms of the prepaid cards also continue to increase in usage as we go ahead, okay. And then we are having a new age. So these two are the new age payment mechanisms, okay. So the first one, electronic funds transfer. Now this was not prevalent in a big way 15, 20 years ago, but in the last 5 to 10 years, electronic funds transfer has been widely, so in short, we call it the NEFT, the National Electronic Funds Transfer mechanism, where you are able to send money from one bank account to the other bank account in a seamless manner. In terms of for NEFT, electronic funds transfer, to settle, the time actually takes anywhere between 15 minutes to less than an hour, right. So if you were to transfer through the NEFT mode payment from one bank to the other individual's bank account, now individual or organization or a vendor, whoever that other person is, if you want to do that, you could do a NEFT. Now here, in summary, I just wanted to quickly tell you that there are mechanisms in terms of completing the payment for electronic funds transfer. You would require a few things. It is not as easy as a debit credit card or a prepaid card. Why? Because there are the details such as who the vendor is, his name, his bank account number, right? his bank's details in terms of which branch or which, for example, the IFSC code which is required to identify a particular bank account and a particular bank branch, for example, these details and the vendor's name as per the bank account. So, if the vendor is sort of calling himself by a particular brand name, for example XYZ, but his bank account that he operates is in a different name, it's not the brand name, then that specific bank account name is required for you to send the funds electronically. You cannot use just any random name. What is the name in the account, registered name in the account, you have to set that up in your bank account and then send electronically via basically either the web method or your mobile method, whichever method. Yeah, you can send the funds through a wire mode. Basically, it's like a wire transfer. You send electronically, you send these funds, they will be debited to your side and credited to the vendor or the other party's side, but you will need those details, right, to be able to do that. However, because in today's times you are doing recurring payments and you are continuing to avail the recurring services, now it could be mobile services, it could be the DTH services, it could be the gym service or whichever service, it could be rental, sort of you have taken a commercial space or a studio or whatever on rent, okay, or you have taken a apartment on rent, right. So, there are periodic payments to be made. So, you can set the electronic funds transfer, because then you need if you have a periodic payments to be set up, then obviously you would want the entire details of the party that you would want to send periodic payments. So, maybe the electronic funds transfer works the best while settling those payments for recurring, any service or purchase of a recurring nature, okay, of a recurring nature. I think electronic funds transfer is the method that can be used. The new age final mobile wallet or a digital wallet, or the e-wallet as we call it, and we have now instead of calling it the wallet, people are now used to calling these wallets by the brand names that we use on a daily basis, and I'm not going to sort of mention those, whether it could be a Paytm or whichever those wallets that each one of those us uses. So, these are basically electronic or mobile wallets. Now, these enable you to basically transfer a sum of money, okay, to you from your account, from your bank account to the counterparties, vendors, friends. So, it could be used as a payment mechanism to settle for the good or service, or even P2P. Now, even this service is used very widely for peer to peer. So, so your friend requests you for money, or you are requesting a friend to quickly send me a money and I am stuck, for example, he will be able to send from his e-wallet or his digital wallet money to your wallet or and to the bank account, right. So, that is sort of this new age payment method where you can settle payment for a good or a service, or use it as a peer-to-peer mechanism to complete a transaction. So, wallet is the new age mechanism to settle in terms of the mode of payment. Yeah. So, moving on, when we are on this new age payment methods, okay, this we need to sort of look at what are the definitely if cash is not going to get used in a big way, if checks are not going to get used in a big way going forward, and if money order is obviously, who is doing money order nowadays? Nobody does it, right. So, even if somebody is wanting to send money from for P2P, for example, from a person to a person, from let's say Mumbai to Delhi, who's doing a money order? I would rather use a mobile wallet, a digital wallet. I would rather do an NEFT, right. I would rather take his bank account details and send him the money. So, the older slower formats are now getting extinct. What is therefore what is the way ahead? Therefore, the way ahead is these new age payments, and most of the new age payments have been prevalent in the last 5, 7, 8 years, or 10 years, from 2000, really 13, 14, 15 onwards, they've really caught on. And the pioneer in the payment revolution, if you can really call that in a big way, is the NPCI, or the National Payments Corporation. Now they are pioneers in and we all know the app that we all use, the payment app, which is the Bharat interface for money, which is the Bhim app, right? So you could have you could download this app on your mobile app store, or a Play Store or whatever, and seamlessly make these payments to the vendor, or a peer-to-peer that we talked about through the wallet, right? So this Bhim app is a pioneering effort developed by the NPCI, the National Payment Corporation. So, but before that, I mean, before we get into the app kind of a peer-to-peer and a very on the fly, let's look at the entire sort of new age methods. The Nash mandate that we actually talked about in the earlier slides, and I just gave you a brief overview on that, is that this is a mandate, as I said, where it enables you to make periodic payments, as we discussed earlier, periodic payments to certain individuals or institutions, right? So you set this mandate up. So, and we'll see that in the next slides, where how the Nash mandate is set up and how the mechanism actually works. But for summary's sake, the Nash mandate involves parties where you as a person want to avail a good or a service on a periodic basis. So you sign this mandate and deliver it to the counterparty, let's say your vendor or the gym or the service provider. It could be a owner of a premise which you have rented out to. You give him that mandate, and for a particular sum, on a particular date, okay. And this is an automated method where a particular amount of money, or whatever that what terms that you have signed on the mandate, that can be debited directly from your bank account on that particular date, right? And payments can be settled. Yeah, that is in summary the Nash mandates, right? It's easy to set up, it's very easy to set up, and it's very convenient. You need not remember every single time that the payment is due, right? The moment that day comes, the moment the amount that you need to transfer, the mandate automatically triggers it and the payments are settled. So this is very convenient, very new age method, and very easy, secure, right? So we can do that. The other is the Bharat bill payment service. So this is a payment service. Now this has been developed again by the NPCI. This service has basically, I mean, I'm not going to get into a large number of details out here. It is sufficient to say that the entire ecosystem, there are vendors on this, there are customers on this entire network, and whoever is signing on this will be able to settle payments very seamlessly, right, on this Bharat bill payment service. So it's like a billing platform which puts all vendors and customers. It's a payment settlement. So whatever method of payment that you are using, whether it's a credit card, it's a debit card, prepaid card, this entire bill payments ecosystem enables you to send money. This and the entire process of sending money from one sort of set of people to the vendors who have signed on this entire platform, and the settlement happens seamlessly, right? So this is at the background used in a big way, okay? USSD, and we will see this in detail in the coming slides, but it's sufficient at this moment at the overview level to let you know is that USSD is unstructured systematic service data, right? So this is unstructured, point number one. This two is the basically the second, the second level. It's an upgrade, it's an improvement over the earlier version, right? So USSD payments are not very prevalent today. The reason for that is that we have internet as an all prevailing, sort of, it's all pervasive, the internet. So you are always connected to the internet or the web, and most of the transactions are taking the carrier's internet network, and you're settling. So the wallet payments that you are making is because you have the internet connectivity already enabled in your phone. That's how it is settled. What happens if the internet connectivity suspended? Can you make a payment today? You can. You can make this payment through the USSD. So it uses only the carrier's network if the carrier has network capability, which means we are talking about actually a 2G kind of a system. So in prior to the 3G, 4G and now the 5G, you had only voice capability on the network, right? So you had the network, you were able to do a voice call, and you could basically send an SMS, right? A short messaging service. You could actually send an SMS on that. You could not do a lot of web browsing or in the 2G kind of framework. However, if there is a network internet connectivity issue, then the USSD format uses certain menus. You can still complete your transaction of sending money through this. Not very widely used today, but from a peer-to-peer perspective, this can certainly be used through the menu format, and you can actually do the short transactions very fast. You need not have internet at all. And this is the IMPS, or the immediate payment service, right? It's the IMPS. This is basically, again, we are talking about the digital wallet or the Bhim app here. So the apps that you are actually, when you're sending money without giving it too much a thought, you're sending money from one person to the other, you're scanning the QR codes and, settling your transactions. You're going to the shopping mall and you bought all those goods, and you just scan that QR code and instantly settle your payments. That is IMPS. That's the immediate payment service, again done by the NPCI, and that's revolutionized the way, and it has given rise to this. The Bhim app is the flagship app of the corporation. But on the lines of this app, there are several wallets, there are several payment apps that we use from the store, the Play Store or the App Store. We use several of these apps. The mechanism underlying is the IMPS kind of a service, right? Quickly moving on, the NASH payment. So this is very critical. I'll spend actually I spend some time to explain how this works, but I want to spend time on what is the process of registering the app, right? So, and the biggest, all of you are doing it actually when you are doing a SIP in a mutual fund, right? So the biggest usage of an NACH mandate is the asset management or the mutual fund industry. So what happens when you want to do a investment? So we saw in the money, we saw in the income module, we saw that you have income, you are saving some, and you're trying to invest that money in a mutual fund, and you have chosen the SIP route, which is the systematic investment plan route, right? Which means you are saying that every month, okay, I want 2,000 rupees to be debited from my bank account, and that amount should go to a particular mutual fund in a particular scheme on a monthly basis, right? That's what you want to do. The savior, one single activity that you do will save the entire monthly rigmarole of you sending debits from your bank account manually, or you're triggering the debits, or somebody else asking you that you need to, there is a reminder, there's you need to honor your SIP. All of that is basically taken care of if you sign the NASH mandate. That's what happens when you want to give periodic payments. And we talked about rentals, we talked about settling periodic payments to vendors or whatever. The biggest usage of the NACH mandate, the NASH mandate as we normally pronounce it as, is the mutual fund industry, all you need to do is fill out this mandate. Now this mandate has, maybe this is not visible, but I'll tell you what this mandate has. This mandate has basically the the who is the sort of the vendor, that the name of the vendor, right? For whom are you giving this mandate for? This has details of when what is the validity of the mandate. The details of that is, you have to fill that. What is the validity of the mandate? Is it 1 year, 2 years? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Or is it 10 years, right? Those dates you can fill out in the mandate. You will need to write your name right here, your signature on the mandate, right? All of these details, and then very critically you'll have to write the amount. Okay, you'll have to write the amount. Okay, and maybe even the dates out here, right? The dates out here. So details such as the amount, whether the mandate is daily, weekly, monthly, okay, all of those. So, or as and when presented. Okay, there is also a there is also a checkbox which says as and when presented. What does that mean? Whenever the vendor or whoever you have signed this mandate for, whenever he presents, okay, the payment, whenever he presents, the payment can go, okay, as and when. So you have told the vendor, boss, do this SIP for me on the 5th of every month. So that's the mandate, right? That's what you have told the vendor, which is the AMC, the asset management company or the mutual fund company, right? You have told him 2000 rupees, 5th of every month is what he should say. He will, maybe when you put all those details, if you check the box as and when presented, okay, you have monthly also there. You have a box called monthly, you have a box called as and when presented, okay, on that NASH mandate. So you choose whatever that, if it's monthly, if it is as and when presented. Typically most AMCs have already ticked at as and when presented. So it, sort of once the mandate is registered, you can, use the same mandate multiple times, right? So the validity, if it is as and when presented, and the amount. So the amount once filled will be, so whenever the mandate is presented, this fixed amount, if it is 2000 rupees, that 2000 rupees on that particular date, if you have signed, it will automatically get debited. So you will fill this mandate. What would you do? If you want to use it for SIP, you will deliver to the AMC. In this case, that's the vendor, right? What do you want to do? It's not a product or a service that you are doing. What are you doing? You are basically doing an investment. You are telling, boss, just like a recurring deposit, 2000 rupees will be debited from my account. That's my understanding. That's my, sort of understanding between you and me. That's what you're saying. Between you and the AMC, you're saying, okay, every 5th, please take 2000 rupees and do this investment for me. I am signing this mandate, giving it to you. Okay. So the AMC has, got that mandate. I have signed it, so that I have authorized it. So this mandate is delivered to the AMC in this case, or any vendor also. If you have taken an apartment on rent, you can give it to the owner or the vendor, and then basically he will on that particular date present the mandate to your bank and sort of take the money. So this, in this case, in this example, if you have for the SIP, you have signed this mandate, delivered to the AMC. The step number 3, on that particular date, right, the AMC or your service provider, the gym or whoever you have given it to, in our example, we have given it to the AMC for the SIP. So this AMC is going to send electronically, of course, the instructions to your bank, because you have signed it, right? It's your mandate with your details of the account number and so on and so forth. You have given it on that money, and you have also checked as and when presented, and you have given the validity as well, right? So you have given all these details. The AMC is going to periodically, if it's as and when presented, as per the SIP mandate, if it's 5th of every month, he's going to just give it on the 5th of every month to your bank. The bank will say, hey, valid, this has been registered with me. I know that you have presented it whenever, if it's ticked as and when presented, okay. Once you present, I am going to release the funds. So on the 5th, when AMC gives this mandate to your bank, the bank is going to honor that, take the money from your account and send it to the vendor. As simple as that, right? So the step 4, the bank then registers this mandate the registration is a one-time activity typically. So, it registers this mandate again based on periodic payment. So, the periodic payment based on whatever details we have filled here and the validity, it is going to check the validity also, and then the payments are going to be honored by your bank to the vendor or the AMC. So, this is basically the easiest way to register the NASH mandate, and it's very beautiful way of settling, sort of doing investments, settling payments. You don't worry about every month. If the periodic payment is there, every month you have to worry. You have to not worry about, array, I missed the date, right? Okay, I had to send, but I was busy, I was traveling, I was doing, I really was not in a frame of mind. Okay, I have given the mandate. Once the mandate registers, this is an auto process. It happens without your knowledge. All you obviously will get is an SMS saying that the funds are debited to my bank account because of this mandate was already registered. You took all these steps which I explained, and once you took all these steps, then it is the duty of the vendor to present it and get the payment settled, right? So, it is his headache. You have transferred your headache to send the payment, settle the payments to somebody else, the vendor or the AMC or the person whom you have given this NASH mandate in favor of that. So, this actually pictorially represents what actually happens when you give a NASH mandate. So, this you are giving, you have filled the NASH mandate out here, the form, you have given it to the, in this case, this is the mutual fund, collecting agency is the mutual fund in this case, right? He is going to present it to the his bank. The AMC is going to sort of give it to the bank, to his collecting bank. Okay, then this mandate is going to go to your bank. Once it is registered, the NPCI will register it and send these instructions to your bank periodically or as and when presented, whatever has been sort of, and then your bank is going to settle the monies, okay, to the AMC's bank, and that's how the entire transaction is over. In terms of an SIP, what happens is, once the funds get debited to your bank account, they go to the AMC's bank account, okay, because the mandate is registered, and the AMC therefore allots the units to your account, right? As simple as that. The moment the funds are in their custody, they will buy the necessary securities in your name, in your folio, okay, and then basically the units or whatever the scheme that you have allotted, these will be allotted in your name. So, the entire, in this instance, in this example, the entire payment cycle is complete. So, when you are talking about a good or a service, in this case we are talking about investment. So, in case of a good or a service, the payment will complete and then sort of invoice is there and the payment completes. In this case, it is an SIP. So, once the payment is being delivered to the AMC, he will allocate the units and the entire payment cycle is complete. So, this is about NASH. It is a very important, very widely used payment mechanism for periodic payments in India now, and the usage of NACH is only growing every time, right? So, so this is the NASH payment. Very quickly on BBPS, two items. One is the we talked about it a couple of slides ago. It's a Bharat Bill Payment Service. It's a platform where all the vendors are there, all the customers can use that platform to settle. There are private platforms also which operate similarly from a technology perspective, but this platform is developed by the NPCI and therefore it's widely used. So there's a wide acceptance. Why would anybody use a platform from the BBPS method? Is because it is cost effective. Okay, very simple. Anybody who is using a payment or a billing kind of a platform and vendors who want to use that will have to pay a service charge to these platforms. Okay, the service charge which the BBPS platform does is very low and therefore it is very cost effective, and that's the reason why most of the vendors would prefer to come on the BBPS platform and use that. It is platform agnostic. What does it mean? That whatever your technology that you are using at from a payment settlement perspective, whatever your bank is, whatever technology you are using to develop your payment settlement mechanisms, it is agnostic, which means everything is available. Whatever you are using is all available in the ecosystem or the platform that BBPS has. It is open loop based payment, which means nothing is sort of it's transparent and it's open, in the sense you can take the platform and use those components to develop payment cycles or mechanisms as per your whatever the structure you have. You need authorizations first, and you need sort of payments should come in a particular fashion, in a particular method, and you have devised a particular code or a software that should be able to work with the current BBPS gateway, and that's why it is an open loop based payment system. It's sufficient for us to know that it is very kind of customizable. That's the only thing that we need to be aware of this, that it needs to, it's open loop based and it is very customizable, it's user friendly, and it can be basically used to your advantage. Cost effectiveness is the biggest advantage for its wider acceptance. So everybody is using it only because, as compared to whatever comparable platforms that are available for bill payment and settlements, I think this is the most cost effective platform. We will talk about RuPay in a moment. Okay guys, now let's quickly move on to the USSD, the version 2. Yeah, okay. So this is a system developed, it's not a new system, it's a system which has been prevalent for a long time now. When GSM, the GSM mobile technology was developed, at that moment itself, this USSD, the series 1 or the version 1 was already available at that point in time. It was not very uh, versatile at that point in time, but the USSDs too, the unstructured supplementary service data is what it stands for, but then the USSD 2 is now pretty easy to use, okay, and is if I may use the term Ramban, or is the best or is a go-to method when you have non-internet or internet as a challenge, right? So if there's a connectivity issue, you are in a remote area, for anybody, any vendor, any customer who wants to use sort of let's say payments, and he's not, there's a very patchy network, sometimes network is available, sometimes not. Definitely not a high speed network, it's not a 4G or a 5G technology, sometimes it's 3G, sometimes that also is not available. When internet connectivity is an issue, this is a method of transacting on connected device. So if the devices do have just GSM connectivity, the voice connectivity, then you can do transactions on this using the USSD 2 platform, right? And it uses short codes. This is very good in the sense that anybody who is challenged for technology, right, and certain section of the public today is challenged for using the BHIM app or the IMPS or the NEFT, too many things to worry about, right? I think for anybody who is technologically challenged, the menu format which is out here, if I don't know if this is very clear, but the menus format, which that you can by sending a particular dial pad related, so if you type a code like a star hash 1234 hash, the code gets activated and it will give you like a menu. So it will give you, choose a language, then you choose let's say 1, and then it will give you okay, now you can choose go to the main menu by choosing 5, then you can sort of, then it will say use 5 to send money, 6 to receive money, so on and so forth, and you can, within a few steps, you can complete the entire transaction, right, by putting in all the details. So you will say, hey, you want to send money to which number, for example, so you'll put the number. So if it's a mobile to mobile money you want to send, you can put the number and then press let's say hash to send. So once you press that, how much, then you can type all that and you can quickly send money from one mobile to the other mobile. So this does not require internet. Now where IMPS and the e-wallets, they would certainly require high speed connection. So if you really put a current app in a 3G kind of a internet connectivity, then it's going to struggle. While none of the 3G, 4G, 5G networks, if they're not available, then this will instantly help you to settle the payment. So I think USSD2 is definitely a go-to technology for wider deployment where internet connectivity is patchy. Okay, that's a very first. Where would this be used? It would be used in, हम लोग जिसे बोलते हैं in Hindi, दूर दराज areas, very remote locations, right? Typically, remote locations would be the mountains. It could be islands. Yeah, it could be where you have got basic phone network. That's it, right? That it will be used there. It's cost effective, right? The code is such that it is not very. It's not, the technology is such that it is not very technology intensive. So it's a very simple short code. So it's kind of the unstructured language format which is given a particular structure by the menu system. So basically it is cost effective. It does not require too many it's just device to device, simple, easy to understand. It's cost effective. It's simple formats, as we already mentioned. It's just a use of menus. So through the menus you can do basic transactions that you want to do, send money, receive money, those kinds of transactions you can do. You can do them multiple times, in a very quick manner, right? And most basic banking transactions are covered. So in fact, apart from sending and receiving money, let's say you want to request for a checkbook, or you want to know the balance. This is some of the, or know last 5 transactions, right? So which have happened in the in the past, right? You could get all those data just quickly on your mobile screen. This technology allows you to use non-smartphones also. Therefore, this technology is in that pre. So you have those button, kind of phones, the non-smartphones that are still prevalent, and people who are technologically challenged. This is a go-to. So they will also not be outside in terms of transaction digitally. So digital transactions in terms of banking technology can also be done by people who are technologically challenged by using the USSD2 method. So it's very important, very good system that is available and can be used. We move on now quickly to IMPS, right? IMPS stands for the immediate payment service, right? Now, I mean, it's to define what IMPS is. We all use it already, right? For peer-to-peer, for peer to account transfer, mobile to mobile transfer, mobile to vendor transfer, we are already using this, right? It uses 2 components when these for when you're actually using mobile as a payment kind of a thing. It's actually using a number, your mobile number, yeah, and the MMID. These are the 2 components that are only required to set this up. Obviously, it requires, unlike the USSD2, it requires your smartphone to be able to do that. Yeah, what are the salient features? And we are already using that. The e-wallets, the entire BHIM app or whatever is, entire architecture is sitting on the IMPS architecture, or the immediate payment service. Before the advent of these apps, the IMPS was used as a next level of service to the NEFT. So what is the difference between the NEFT and the IMPS? The NEFT, where you require a lot of counterparty details, sort of that you need to fill in the bank account, right? Once you fill those details, okay, and you wish to send the money, the transaction time for the credit from your account to the counterparty's account was anywhere between 15 and 30 or 60 minutes, right? That was what. In the IMPS is the next level, which means what it says, the moment it gets debited to your account, if you put, so there are 2, even in today's world, you could use this or that, in the sense that if you were to log into your bank account, you can either do an NEFT or you can do an IMPS. Both are payment settlement mechanisms, but this is slightly an updated version on sending the money via this. Also in the sense that the NEFT, uses a banking architecture, the IMPS uses the Aadhaar mobile architecture. So, you need not know the bank account and the counterparty details, you need only one parameter, for example, the mobile number of the person to which the bank account is linked to, and you can send this. So, that is certainly an improvement or a jump between the NEFT and the IMPS is a improved version of settling kind of the payments. The transaction costs, you can basically transact across multiple channels, to the bank, to the vendor, peer to peer, right? You can do that. It's low cost, obviously, because the technology is developed by NPCI and it is made for public usage, and therefore the costs have been kept low. As a result of which, the transaction capability, the volume is increasing as a result of the low cost that it is available at. It's true to name. What does that mean? It's like it's immediately settled. The moment it is debited here, it's credited there, right? So it's true to its name, and it's a completely versatile. What means? There's no failure rate. It's versatile. You can pay from one account to the other without having to worry about calling the person and checking whether you've got the money or not. No, if it's debited here, it's fail safe. From that perspective, it will let you know whether the transaction has gone through or not. If the transaction has not gone through, if it says that it has failed, it will come back to you. So, it's fail safe in the sense that it's not going to go somewhere else, right? So, system is robust and very versatile and secure from that perspective. Yeah. So, that is IMPS for you. What are the vision that we want to go from, as we stand 2018, 19, 20 and right through the 2020s, what is the payments and settlements vision that the government of India is driving for? It wants basically 5 items that the vision envisages, right? What are they? Growth in IMPS and NEFT. So, the digital payments ecosystem will be developed and will be encouraged for everybody to use. Vendors, individuals, peer to peer, any settlement or transaction, no traditional methods, no check. Rather, they're not saying you should not use check or any other old. Those are available, but this is to promote this and kind of discourage the cash kind of method, discourage the money orders because it's a slow method. It is prone to errors. This is not prone to errors. So, encourage growth of IMPS and NEFT systems. Obviously, decrease paper. Paper is prone to error, right? Check is prone to error. The date mismatch happened, signature mismatch happened. This is not prone to error. The sender is well aware, and the receiver, if you are clear that the receiver has to got the money, it will hit the intended receiver if you have triggered it correctly, right? So, decrease of the paper instantly possible. Increase usage of the mobiles. So, whether you or I like it or not, mobiles have been increased, usage have increased, the penetration of mobile smartphones is increasing. So, it's obviously, it is to that registered base. So, it's easier for everybody to agree that we are going to use this as a payment. So, we want to do that. Then Aadhaar based payment settlement, which means number versus anything that is linked to Aadhaar. The Aadhaar payment system is where it is, there is no, it's identified. There is no scope for, even kind of little bit scope for Hawala, where the user will be masked and you do not know whether the user is. If it's Aadhaar based kind of a system, you are aware that the entity is, KYC, or it is a verified entity that you are sending, the money to, or you're transacting with. So, accelerated payment settlement using the Aadhaar payment mechanism, and obviously growth in the acceptance of the infrastructure. So, these are the basically core 5 areas in terms of vision that the government is driving towards. 5 C's, if I can really quickly summarize, is wide access in terms of coverage, convenience, ease of use, very easy. All you need to do is just a counterparty's mobile number, right? And you need to verify that the person that you are intending to send the money is verified that this is his mobile number. You can test it out also with smaller amounts if you are really apprehensive. But typically, once you verified that the party is there, then it's very easy. All you need to do is just open your app and send the money. It's done, right? Confidence. It's integrated and secure. We've already seen that. Billions of transactions have happened on an annual basis on these systems, the payment systems, right? and otherwise if there were a lot of errors, otherwise there were a security issue, it would have been highlighted and it would have become a big problem, and the growth would not have happened the way it is happening. It's happening only because it is the system is secure, which means the moment the money is, there's no chance for money leakage. The moment the money is sent, it is reached on the other side and it's reached securely. There's no leakage in that, right? It's convergence. It's interoperable across systems. You want to send money from a mobile to a bank account to a mobile, right? You want to send it from a particular device to a vendor's bank account, or you need to use NEFT systems to send, sort of through a bank, different channels to a mobile. Everything is possible over the system. That's why there's a convergence, and the biggest factor is cost. Because it is low cost, it's booming, right? It's easier, it's convenient, and it's low cost. These 2 or 3 aspects are driving the entire payments ecosystem towards the new age or digital payment ecosystems, right? So I think we have to now quickly summarize what have we learned. Yeah, that we have a price payment cycle. Anything that you are doing, right? Anything that the desire that for you to do a trade or a transaction, right? For availing or a good, buying a good or availing of a service, you have to close the payment cycle, and the payment price cycle is very important for you to achieve. If at the payment stage it is seamless, then the entire transaction is closed, right? That's what we saw. NPCI and its products, very powerful suite of products that NPCI has, the National Payments Corporation of India, has developed meticulously, fast, cutting edge, safe payments ecosystem, and has bought multiple products. We saw all of them actually, or most of them actually, in fairly detail in this session, right? Usage of UPI and its elements. UPI is the IMPS system that we saw, right, with all the app interface, how it's done and how we saw that. We also saw what happens if internet is not there tomorrow. Can you do transactions? Yes, you can do transactions via the USSD, which is still there. It is still easy to use. It is still, you can do all the basic transactions like sending money, receiving money, right? You can do that. You can do much more. You can actually find out what the transactions you did, what are the last 5 transactions, what is the bank balance, right? All of those you can find out even if there is no internet connectivity through USSD too. And we have seen obviously the IMPS versatility, and we are experiencing it daily, in fact. That you're sending and receiving without giving too much thought. It was, wow, what a system, and you have not even given a thought in terms of how this system is working, because it's so easy to use and it's so versatile that you have almost got used to it, right? So all of these things we learned today, and thank you so much for watching.